What if I told you the secret to scaling your business isn't doing more, it's building a team that can run the show? I'm Natasha Banyan. Welcome back to the Pet Era Podcast. And today we're going to be tackling one of the biggest shifts you'll make in your business as a business owner, building a team that builds the business. Now, I know this was a big mistake that I did, is that I didn't see it this way. I saw it as I build the business. It's my business. I'm personally responsible for the failures and the successes. Instead of saying, no, I'm the leader of my business, I'm personally responsible for the failures and successes as the leader, making sure my team can do this whether I'm here or not. So if you were like me in the beginning, you probably feel that you need to do everything. And I will definitely say from my experience, I was the biggest bottleneck in my business with that mindset. And it really just comes from ignorance. Most of us don't have family members who have businesses. For most of us, this is our first business that we're trying and we're doing our best. But that means it doesn't come without mistakes. And so inevitably, it's going to be exhausting, it's going to be unsustainable, and it holds us back from growth, being the only person doing everything because we can only do so much. So in this episode, I really want to talk about why building a team is really the key to scaling. We are not the octopus. We don't have 8 legs and we can't do it all. At this moment in time, we can't duplicate ourselves. So we need to figure out how can we duplicate the system within the business. And so trying to find the right people, how to empower them to take ownership of their roles. And so they might be thinking, you know what, like you're hiring me, but I'm only going to be taking care of the dogs. You're hiring me and I'm only going to be grooming or I'm only going to be training. But we want to be honest with the people we're hiring and let them know, listen, you're going to be taking care of the dogs, but we also have other roles within the business, growing it, events, administrative duties that you can help us with. If you're in that point right now where you're like, yeah, you know, I'm not really articulating that to my team. They're not really understanding that it's a we that does the heavy lifting and not me, then this episode is definitely for you. Why do we need the team to scale our business? The truth is, you can only do so much as a one-person show. I know we love to use the word of solopreneur and give it, you know, this praise that it's like it's okay to be a solopreneur. We're still a preneur of some sort, but we're really not, because what happens when we remove you from the show? There's literally nothing. So all we're doing is being a employee of the business. We are now self-employed. I left my day job to now go to my own business by doing the same thing in probably more hours, as you guys know. So your time, your energy, and your skills are limited, and you can only go so far. So if your business relies entirely on you, you're no longer growing the business. You're just trying to keep the walls up. And I did that. So I understand. When I first started, I definitely thought I can do it all. I was fairly young and I had a lot of energy. I was not married. I didn't have any kids. So I was like, this is my passion. This is what I'm going to be doing. And I'm going to make sure I take care of all the client calls, all the pet visits, the scheduling, the marketing. Like, I'm going to do it all. I can do it all. I will do all things. And one of the really bad things I told myself is I work 12 hours for someone else. I can certainly work 12 hours for myself. And that was the worst mindset to go into, because I just hit a wall and I realized that I wanted to grow, but I was really holding it up. Being able to look at your team and says, you know what, we focus on the vision, the mission, and the bigger picture. Instead of just like spinning yourself in weeds and taking a step back and saying, you know, why can't I do all this? Say, you know what, I can do all this, but I can do all this with help. Asking for help is the most powerful thing you can do in your business. I know a lot of us have struggles with asking people for help because we feel like a failure. We feel like, you know, we don't have a handle on it. But asking for help actually shows that you do have a handle on it. So how do you find the right people? I want to kind of break down like what it looks like for hiring for your values and not just skills. Because I can find that everybody can take care of a dog. Everybody can take care of a cat. But do they have the same values as I do? A lot of times I would hire a new employee and they would say like, oh, I've been doing this for 5 years. I work with this such and such company. And people would say like, oh, that's great. But for me, that was a red flag. Okay, I'll tell you why. Because when I knew they had quote unquote more experience, I knew they were going to be semi stuck in their ways. And I knew that they were going to be bringing maybe bad habits from where they were to my business. Now, I didn't let this, allow that person from moving forward. I would simply let them know, great that you come with experience, but I want you to know that we do business completely different from everybody else. And I want to be able to show you that from scratch. Are you open to that? It was really easy for them. And some people really had a hard time making that shift. As you guys know, there's a lot of independent contractors out there, and we just didn't run that business model. We run a single hat system, and that really allowed the back office to take care of all the client facing stuff, all the issues, complaints, scheduling. And we allowed the walkers, sitters, pet providers to stay in their expertise and stay fully focused on the dog or cat. This really allowed us to prevent holes in our business. But some people who were used to talking to clients and they really found joy in that, and they found joy being the fixer for clients, they had a hard time not reaching out to clients instead of focusing on the dogs. And inevitably, those relationships didn't work out. So what are your values? Take a second right now to think about which way do I want to kind of run my operation? And you don't need to have a massive team right now. I'd much rather have a team that gets it, a smaller team that gets it, a smaller team that's trained. And once that happens, then we can scale and build out versus hiring a lot of people fast that are just not good fits. And so you may start off with maybe a part-time contractor, a part-time employee that can just take a little bit of load off of your plate, one territory or a couple of the clients that are kind of out of the way. That will do wonders for your travel time. That does wonders for, the one-off client that you committed to, but are now out of your way. Very first hire was a game changer. It really allowed me to keep the floods open and say, you know what, I can take on more customers. Now, every time I took on more customers, I built out a new territory. I said, great, I'm going to get 5 to 10 customers in each neighborhood. I'm going to put someone there and I'm going to do it again. I'm going to put 2 people there and I'm going to do it again. And so that's how we were able to build fairly quickly, is we did not just focus on one territory, but we focused on growing and scaling and then moving on. In interviews, I really focus on situational questions that really revealed how they think and how they problem solved. An example question could be, how do you handle client complaints? Or what would you do if a dog refused to walk? So those are big ones. We don't want you been seen on the street dragging a dog down the road and the neighbors are like, oh, I would never use that walker because you guys drag the dogs. We know that the average dog does not walk well the same way they walk with their owners. So we do a lot of dog training to get them moving and shaking. If a client was going to complain to you, are you going to handle it? Is there a team that you can delegate this to? How do you transition a client to make sure you're still offering level 10 service? We say let potential hires know exactly what role they're going to be involved in. And that may be just the role for the day. I don't know how you're doing it. But whatever role they're in, whatever is on their schedule, whatever that is for that day, you want them to be super clear on their roles and responsibilities so there is no misunderstandings. Clarity up front definitely prevents someone saying, well, I didn't know, or I didn't get it, or you didn't tell me. And it helps you find people that are really excited about the job. My pet peeve is misunderstanding. I hate that word. I'm like, there's no such thing as a misunderstanding, because we all could have clarified. We've all could have taken a step back and made sure. Hiring is simply just half the battle. I see a lot of time in Facebook groups people are saying, I'm hiring, now I'm hiring, and I've been hiring. But are you hiring properly? Because just putting an ad out and telling someone to come in is one thing, but actually onboarding them properly and seeing them to success is another. The real magic, I would say, happens when your team takes complete ownership of their role. And you can help them do that. If you provide clear systems so your team can't just succeed if they don't know what's happening, they're like, you know what, I didn't know. And you're like, actually, I created an SOP, a standard operating procedure. Actually, you signed it when you started with us. Actually, you went through the training program when you started with us. You took the test from the training program when you started with us. So you want to make sure you have these little checkpoints in your business to ensure that they're not saying that they didn't know. Right? These are the roadmap, the guide for success. So I don't know about you, but when I join a team, I want to know like what's expected of me. What's the top player doing? What makes them great? Where do I go for help? Where do I go for resources? You want to remember what it felt like when you started working somewhere and you were kind of a deer in the headlights. I'm sure you felt that before. How can we prevent that in our business for people? And then I would say you want to trust the team. I know this one is really hard, especially if you're used to doing a lot of stuff yourself, but micromanaging will only slow things down. I will tell you, you are creating dependent employees. If you think of a parent child relationship, if your parents are hovering over you and correcting it and telling you their way is a better way and not allowing you the freedom and flexibility to make mistakes, they're always going to come to you and they're going to be so afraid to mess it up that they're never going to make a decision. And that is the worst spot to be in. So allow them to do it their way. And if it works and it's good, maybe you could have done it better, but who cares sometimes? If it's good and it works, praise them, thank them, and go with it. A lot of times I would make this schedule for my team and their feet on the ground. And they would say, you know, Natasha, like this schedule is cool, but so-and-so's concierge actually goes to lunch at this time. And then so-and-so walks really slow to get to the next jog. So it's actually better if I do this or move this around and then swing back to them, or the lockbox is usually out of the way. You know what I'm saying? They see what's going on the ground and they'll come back and offer suggestions. And I'm like, yeah, if that's going to be more efficient for you, then do it. I just don't throw the team in the deep end and expect no feedback because, again, they're on the ground. We're investing in the growth and providing them ongoing training and resources. And you only can create those training and resources based on their feedback and creating a safe company culture that allows them to even want to tell you anything. Because we know what that looks like. We're like, I'm just going to kind of keep this to myself. I'm going to be slow quitting because I know that this is just going to be an argument with the boss and I don't even want to deal with that today. That's what we don't want. Having regular check-ins and completing that open communication with your team is so key because sometimes I don't know what's going on unless I'm kind of in their business. So I'm like, oh, what have you been doing lately? Or what's changed or what's new? And now I found out that the boyfriend moved out or they went through a really bad breakup and, you know, so-and-so's parents are sick, you know, things that I need to know about their current life status at home that could be potentially affecting their job. And with working with animals, affecting the safety of what's going on right in front of them. So doing those check-ins are so vital because you start to figure out like, oh, this person just applied for college. Or this person, you know, is going to be going back home for the holidays. Guess they're not going to be working this season. Checking in, okay? Not being blindsided because you're the person that says, knock, knock, you know, how things going. I know one of the hardest parts of building a team is shifting that mindset to no longer just be the doer, but to be the leader. And being that leader is checking in, you know, not being reactive, but, you know, being proactive, being in front of it. And being a good leader learns how to delegate and trust and let go of control. I know that's something that is way easier said than done. But I can promise you, when you're like, you know what? I'm not going to die picking up poop or I'm not going to die over dog shit. I had to tell myself that every day. You know what, Natasha? We are not going to be stressed the hell out over dog shit. Like, let that go. We are not going to space right now. It'll be okay. I had to self-talk to myself a lot, okay? And you may have to do that too. But whatever it is, you start to release your body, your nervous system starts to adjust, and you start to enjoy being an owner. Because the toughest part of this is just letting go, letting that baby go to college, closing your eyes, and, you know, saying, I set up all the processes, I set up the systems, they're not going to fall apart, they're not going to fail. You know why? Because I train them, because I've given them the skills to be better here and better in the future to wherever else they're going, you know, in their next job. So building the team, okay, building up the team that builds the business is being that leader that creates the environment, creates the system that allows your team to thrive. I know when I shifted into that mindset, everything completely changed. And I so desperately wish that I would have convinced myself of that from the very first day. I wouldn't have had this false belief that, you know, I'm the end all be all and it's all on my back. Because when I acted that way, the business ran that way and we got nowhere. Okay, I'm just the one person with a whole bunch of logs carried on my back and I only could go so far. But the result of building the right team, I would say, is that you're going to yield incredible results by putting in the inputs. We say if we put in small inputs, we can receive the benefits from the outputs. The clients are going to have better customer service. They're going to be in a better place with your team. They're not going to always be calling on you as the best person. Where have you been? Why aren't you servicing me anymore? No, actually, I've sent a team member who knows what to do, that's fully capable. And that's what we're going with. And they're like, cool, I don't care who you send. Everything has been great no matter who it is. And that has been my favorite compliment. Doesn't matter who they send, everybody does a really great job. That's when you know you have a great business. Because I've gotten my hair done at salons where my top girl has been missing. And I'm like, oh God, anxiety, butt clench, say a prayer. Okay. We know how that feels when we don't see our people and we're so nervous to use someone else. If you get your nails done, for the ladies, or the barber for getting your hair cut for the guys, when you don't see your person, you're like, oh gosh, how is this going to go? And then the business slows down because we only book when our favorite person is there. And if our favorite person quits, we're most likely not going to come back to the business either. Those are the same rules. The same rules apply for your business. I think we forget that sometimes. Treat the business as a customer, okay? If you step into the customer seat, you'll be able to have a better vision of actually what's going on. You can take on more clients, then you can expand to new territories, and you can even add new services because you're thinking about, listen, I don't want a top dog at this point. I want to make sure everybody can do it all, not do it all in the sense of take the load, but they're all cross-trained. So whatever hat they're wearing today, they have the skills to do so. So if Susie says, I want to go, on a vacation for 2 weeks, I'm not on her back because we don't have any coverage. That's going to be a whole nother episode about us giving our team slack because we've failed to stock up. And we're like, you can't leave because who else is going to? Well, that's not their problem. That's our problem as a business owner. Again, a whole nother episode for that one. But at the end of the day, we are building a legacy for our community, a legacy for our families, and a legacy for ourselves. And like me, the legacy idea may fund something else you're working on. This may be the first stepping stone into the new future. We don't know what that's going to look like for you. We don't know what your pet heir is going to say. But while you're in it, we're going to make sure it has treated you so well. So when you close that heir or you pass the torch or you continue on, you knew you did it with everything, every skill you possibly could. So my final thoughts for today would be to remember that you don't have to do it all. Building a team is definitely an investment. Even if you don't have the same team members, you have the same playbook, and anyone can grab the book and run with it. They're going to make your business better. They can act like they're going to franchise, right? They can follow a franchise idea, but just in your small town or whatever you decide. But they have the playbook. You created it. You made it available. And so it's just not about scaling. It's really about creating that business, of course, that's going to support your life and, not take over your life. So if you've been thinking about hiring, I'll definitely say to join us behind the scenes in our Telegram group. We definitely going to talk about this episode. And I want to know what's going on in your business today to where this episode may have resonated with you. As always, share it with your business bestie, and I will see you on the next one.